pressed something on the keyboard and the computer just froze up. Why are we getting I/O errors? Call to reboot failed, connection timed out. If this works, it's gonna work great, and if it doesn't, then it's gonna not. We have no fonts. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. Apologies for my absence from this YouTube channel. I can't promise it won't happen again, but it'll probably happen again. This is a PowerMac G3 Blue and White. And not just any G3 Blue and White. This model has a lot of upgrades installed. It's not maxed out or anything like that, but it has a fairly rare G4 upgrade card, as well as maxed out RAM and a graphics card from like 2004. And today's video, we're going to be attempting to install Arch Linux onto it. This is all possible thanks to a project called ArchPOWER, which I've been following for the past couple of years. ArchPOWER is an Arch Linux-based distribution designed for PowerPC Macs, including like packages necessary for those Macs. It allows you to install Arch Linux on a PowerPC Mac, and it works pretty well. It works better than Debian PowerPC, Void PowerPC is dead, Adderley is, I don't know what the hell they're doing right now, honestly, but ArchPOWER generally works pretty well. However, the last time I tried it on this thing, I couldn't get it to boot from CD. I have a few more tricks up my sleeve to maybe get that working though. And the first one is going to be how we're going to try to boot this thing. Now these have very, very early versions of New World open firmware. They can't boot from USB at all, and they also have issues booting from some CDs, like the ArchPOWER CD that I couldn't get to boot on here. But what I'm going to try is booting this image from FireWire. And the way I'm going to do that is by taking the decrepit innards of the garbage drive. This is a hard drive enclosure for FireWire and USB and stuff like that, and connecting it up with this hard drive which has all the install files on it. And if that doesn't work, I have a few more tricks up my sleeve that I hope I don't have to try, and then we're just going to try it out. Alright, here is a FireWire cable. I believe this one's made by Sony. Yep. Got the cable plugged in here, so now let's plug it into this end. Make sure this isn't resting on any metal surfaces or anything like that. Plug in one of the two power cables. Plug in data. This thing does have hardware RAID on it, so that's why there's two power cables. Let's get out the power supply. Second one I've had. The first one died. Let's plug it on in. Flip the switch. Drive's coming to life. You can feel it spinning, it's just not showing up on the computer. Let's try booting this thing into Mac OS X real quick. I think I'm going to wipe the Mac OS X install on here because it's really slow, but should allow us to at least be in an environment that doesn't suck. And you'll get to see one of the weird quirks of this machine when we reboot. Yeah, those lines there, there are gray lines going down the screen at every single point. This is not GPU failure. There's something wrong with the ROM where it doesn't like displaying at 256 colors. And at this stage, you're always going to be displaying at 256 colors. I don't know what it is, but it makes everything really glitchy during the boot screen, and you'll see more of that later probably. But once we get in the system, everything is completely normal. Let's see if it shows up here. If it does, then that's great, and if it doesn't, well, that kind of sucks. So now we're going to see if there's an open firmware path. You can see how slow Mac OS X is. This is why I avoid using it. I turned off Spotlight and that made it better, but it's still like not ideal. Info, this is... Alright, this is not going to be very useful in terms of device tree because it's not an open firmware tree. I'm just going to assume right now, I'm going to make the assumption quickly that this is not going to work the way that I hoped it would. So what we're going to do instead, go to the Mac OS X drive. This might end up working, but I'm going to assume that it won't. Makes sense to copy the contents of this minus the system folder, of course, and minus mock kernel. If we copy archboot and ppc, allow us to boot straight off the hard drive into the Linux kernel, and once the Linux kernel takes over, we're going to be able to very easily get this thing working. This is why I didn't do this with USB, even so, because this is going to take less than a minute, whereas with USB 1.1, it would take about 10 minutes. I guess I could throw a USB 2 card in this thing. I do have one. You know, it's just a pain to get that on my other machine, put it into this one, you know. Now we're going to restart and boot this thing up into open firmware mode. Hold down Command Option O and F to boot this thing up into open firmware mode. The camera is having a very hard time focusing on this, probably because of the lines. And it's, every time we type, it gets worse. FireWire does not seem to be detecting anything at all. Not exactly surprising. Okay, I think what we need is boot ultra 0 : yeah, I just froze the computer somehow. Yep, completely frozen. Just press something on the keyboard and the computer just froze up. Oh no, it's already going wrong. Okay, reboot. Try this again. Boot back into open firmware. Boot ultra 0 : 7, comma, /boot /grub /powerpc.elf. Okay. And, unknown file system, entering rescue mode. Yeah. Grub is, not working. Oh, God. Okay. So, we have a backup plan, which is this ISO contains a copy of Yaboot. The problem with Yaboot is that I've never gotten it to work properly. But that doesn't mean we're not going to try. Very convenient having a reset button, by the way. Boot. Now, I need to do dir again. Dir ultra 0 : 7, comma, /boot. Boot ultra 0 : 7, comma, /boot /boot /yaboot. Okay. Bootstrap partition type is wrong. That's fine. Now, yeah. Okay. Now we're loading the kernel. Can't read of block 0 failed. Can open device CD : 0. Conf device equals ultra 0 partition equals 7. Oh, you know what I'm gonna do actually? Screw it. This is gonna be a mess to do this way. We're gonna do this a different way. Boot this thing back up into macOS and then just edit the config file in TextEdit like a normal person. Oh, this is already turning into a little bit of a mess. Grub not working is very annoying, and means I have to figure out how to get Yaboot to actually work. I hate Yaboot. I think it's the worst thing ever, especially when I don't have a screen that actually works, like boot yaboot.conf. Throw this into TextEdit here. And device is going to be ultra 0. Overwrite. Oh, crap. Oh, I have to change the permissions now. Ownership and permissions. Read, write. There. Now we go to the boot folder. And we go get info. Ownership and permissions. Read, write. There we go. Okay. Ultra 0 should be the right device. Now let's reboot and get ourselves back into open firmware for hopefully the final time. And then we should be able to boot. Okay, boot ultra 0 : 7, comma, / boot / yaboot. Bam. Please work. That's what it did last time. taking longer than before. L32 kernel loaded. Loading RAM disk. Okay, we are now booting into the kernel. Now hopefully it initializes the FireWire controller, because if it doesn't, then it's not going to be able to detect the Arch ISO anywhere. I'm not sure if it even looks at the fire. I think it looks at all SCSI devices, so that shouldn't be a problem. Got caps lock. Means it's doing something. I'm going to give it a few minutes sitting at this corrupted screen. CD I could at least like hear spinning up, so screw it. Burning a disk. While the disk is burning over here, because I think it's pretty safe to say now that it's either hanging on, being unable to find a boot disk, or it's hanging on, or it's working but it's hanging on graphics. It's not working with the graphics. I'm going to switch to the 6.1 kernel, because that tends to be a little bit more reliable with these things. So let's go ahead and reboot the machine back into macOS 10 so we can edit the file once more to use the 6.1 kernel. Hello from the editing booth. I should probably explain why it's hanging on this screen. The ArchPOWER kernel and RAM disk are configured to look for a partition called Arch 2020-602 on all available drives in order to find the compressed root file system. Now, it should have found this off the FireWire drive, but it seems like the FireWire controller in this computer either doesn't work on Linux or the driver for it didn't load automatically. The files are on the macOS 10 partition, like we copied over, but it won't load them from there because the partition name doesn't match. Putting a CD in the drive will create a matching partition that the Arch RAM disk can see, and then it will boot from it, at least in theory. We go Arch, boot, PPC. This file is the right name, it just was glitching in Finder. We're gonna copy the name of this thing. I'll just write it in here. Linux LTS 6.1, and then we do VM Linux LTS 6.1. We got the CD burned, so let's go ahead and grab it. Put it in the good old DVD-ROM drive that I think I installed. I think it was a CD-ROM before, but this drive works just fine. Boot ultra 0:7, double backslash boot boot. Now we run that. Okay, this is why I wanted to use 6.1, because I can actually get feedback at this stage on 6.1. I wouldn't be surprised if we get a 2-minute hang and then an error about firmware. That would be resolved by just installing the Linux firmware package, but of course, since ArchPOWER has to fit on a CD, it doesn't have that. Hope that doesn't cause any problems. I don't think it will, actually. But you're not seeing this. It doesn't seem to be really coming up on camera, but there's dark gray lines and there's flickering. This weird, like, CRT strobe flickering. Okay. Got to the login prompt. Let's do an auto adjust to the monitor real quick. Or actually, we're going to do a manual adjust. And check this out, dude. Got the Arch Linux installer running on this PowerMac G3. Now let's see if we have an internet connection. We do. Now let's see if I can install the FBset package. I think this will install it in RAM, which isn't ideal. Okay, the text is weirdly orangey, but we have fixed the strobe line issue entirely. Now let's be okay. Now we're gonna go ahead and, I believe macOS 9 would have to be SDA 6. So we're gonna go ahead and overwrite the macOS 9 install on here. Not because I want to, but because that makes the most sense. So let's do Mac F disk dev SDA dev SDA 6 D6, I think. Capital C 6P, I think. We're gonna do 500 megabytes. Boot. Apple Bootstrap. Now the rest of the drive's gonna be C 7P 1 gig swap C 8P 8P is the length and root. And look at that, we have our partition table. So now we're gonna go ahead and write our partition table to the disk. All right, now we're gonna quit. Now it's time to make our partitions. Now it's gonna be hformat/dev/SDA6. Should be fine. And we do swap mk swap /dev/SDA7 mkfs.ext 4/dev/SDA8. It's interesting, it actually did update the partition numbers, which is not something you typically see with GPT or MVR or anything like that. Those tend to be rather static. Swap on /dev/SDA7 mount -dev/SDA6/mnt boot. We're going to make this the boot partition. Normally I would not have an HFS plus boot partition, but we're going to need it. I'm going to stick with Linux LTS 6.1 for now. Packstrap /mnt base Linux LTS 6.1 HFS utils network manager yaboot nano Linux firmware. That should be good. All right, time to download and install all this stuff. This points to either something wrong with my burn, something wrong with the CD, which is very possible, or something wrong with the drive. Because it's a squashfs error, and what's squashfs? Well, it's the CD drive. Okay, I have devised a method that's going to work. It's going to work great, it's going to have no problems whatsoever, there will be no issues. And that is, I'm just going to force restart the computer real quick. Take the CD out of the drive, this thing sucks, throw it this way. You know, Bringus is right, optical media bad. Okay, user aborted. Boot hd :10 Commodore /TBXI. Is it 9? Yeah, okay. Now it's going to boot just fine, probably, hopefully. What we're going to do is we're going to use a USB flash drive with Arch Linux on it, like boot off the hard drive like we were doing before with Yaboot, have it read all the like Arch ISO stuff off of a USB flash drive, which I know that Arch Linux Power can do. So no optical media, no FireWire madness. Get this out of here. Just flip it, turn it off. It's plugged into the USB port now. It did show up. Of course, it's going to be running at 1.1 speeds, but who cares? Now we reboot. We're also not going to install Linux firmware because we don't need it right now, and it's just huge and takes up a lot of time. So we're going to just not install it. Then we're going to do the 10-minute boot process dance that this time we'll be running off of something that can do random reads and writes, but of course it's USB 1.1, so it's very, very slow. Why are we getting I/O errors? Okay, we finally made it to the install screen. Here, that took about 10 minutes to boot. This will not be the case for actual boots. It'll probably be about 1.5 minutes maximum. Okay, now we're gonna do mkfs.ext, or I'm gonna do lsblk. Quick, mkfs.ext 4/dev/sda 8. Yes. Mount/dev/sda 8/mnt. Mount/dev/sda 7/mnt boot -mkdir. Oh, sda 6 swap on /sda 7. Now, packstrap/mnt base Linux LTS 6.1. We're not going to do Linux firmware. Yaboot HFSUtils nano network manager. And hopefully all the IO errors we're getting are not going to cause everything to break, but I'm betting that they will, because wouldn't be a distro video if things didn't go completely wrong. I've yet to see an actual problem that those IO errors have caused. Highly doubt there isn't one, but this will be a much faster installation process because we don't have to deal with Linux firmware. If this doesn't work, then I have a few other possible solutions up my sleeve. I have reading from the hard drive, which means creating a new partition, calling it ArchISO something or other, which is going to be a pain. I could probably do that from like a Ubuntu live disk or Debian live disk, because those work fine. Like, you can boot Debian 8 on this thing, I think. I don't know if you can boot modern Debian. I kind of doubt it because it's grub. It doesn't even have a Yaboot fallback. Now, Yaboot is going to be another adventure because it really does not like to be installed at /boot. So we're going to have to write a custom config file to allow ourselves to actually use that. I believe the build of Yaboot that's here does not support ext4 partitions, which is actually going to be really, really annoying if true. Like in general, but the way that I have things set up shouldn't be a big problem. Alright, it looks like we actually got past the step that we failed at last time. Right now it's updating udev and creating user accounts and all that sort of stuff. Now in the truth, so any issues with the USB drive are not really relevant anymore, which is pretty nice. Oh my god, okay, it looks like we completed successfully. Now let's do gen fs tab-u/mnt. That should be that. How long must it take to generate an fs tab? Long enough for a damn IO error to show up, that's for sure. I guess there's something with my USB flash drive that's screwed up. Or the USB drivers, or the USB port. Every time this happens, it does eventually complete, and it does so successfully. There we go. Now let's do arch/mnt. Now hopefully, we'll never have to worry about that USB ever again. Cat that, looks like it did show up successfully. Before we move forward, we're going to install fbset. Because we can. Look how fast that was. No error messages the whole time. fbset, depth 32. And now we're running in orange mode, but at least you can actually see the screen without lines in the middle. And that also triggered the monitor to do auto adjust, so we can see even more. Ybin, I don't know how to use this. ln-sf user bin lib yaboot user local lib yaboot umount dev sda6 mount. Alright, now we have yaboot. Now we need to do, can we use yaboot config? that'll work. Let's try yaboot config --no install. Now cp/etc yaboot.conf/boot cat now boot yaboot.conf. Okay, that should be doable. That should be doable. That should be workable. That should be workable. I think I did everything I need to have a functional Arch install. So let's reboot. I don't want to interrupt the reboot. So this is going to take as long as it takes. Called a reboot failed. Connection timed out. What the frick? Now I think the whole system kind of just died at perfect moment for it to not matter very much. I just have to hope that all the data was synced over properly. Let's see if I can Control C here. No Control C, no Control D. Absolutely none of it is working. So, I think System D is screwed. I think System D is absolutely done goofed. Probably from all the I/O errors. And hopefully all the data got synced over. It should have been, at least mostly. Not much we can do except for reboot and hold down the open firmware keys. And we're in open firmware. Again with the camera not focusing. Boot HD:6, /yaboot. Shit. Okay, it appears we can boot the kernel. The path is just wrong. And I think this is not going to work because it's not going to boot the RAM disk. Well, there's another secret cooler plan to shut down the computer. And now we're going to take this thing apart. If this works, it's going to work great, and if it doesn't, then it's going to not. And we got the hard drive here. We're going to pull this IDE cable. Now we're going to connect it up to this thing, which is an ATA to USB interface. It looks like it's not going to connect while it's in the case, so we're going to have to take it out of the case. Alright, the drive is now on top of the computer. So now what we're going to do, connect up this IDE 3.5 adapter here. Alright, everything's all wired. Now all we have to do is turn on the Mac. And it's just going to hang infinitely because there's no boot device. Alright, the drive is shown up on the system here. So let's mount this partition. Now we go into yaboot.conf and finally set this device equals to ultra 0. This partition is not unmounted cleanly. Okay, we have it at fsck.hfs sdb6. Volume was repaired successfully. Now let's boot this up. Go into here. Go to our yaboot.conf. And the device is going to be ultra 0. Save. Need root permissions. That's fine. Okay dokie, ladies and gentlemen and everyone in between. Boot HD:6, /yaboot. Now we press enter. Please wait loading kernel. It didn't fail. Loading RAM disk. It didn't fail. And this is kind of what I'm expecting to see here. Welcome to ArchPOWER. Starting System D. Create system files and directories. Basic system. USB detected. CD-ROM detected. But now we're actually getting graphics that don't have lines in them and are the right colors. Mounted swap, mounted boot, user login management. We're getting closer and closer to that glorious logon screen. And oh yes, it's working. Holy goddamn. Root. And we log in. Holy crap. Ladies, gentlemen, and everyone in between, Arch Linux has officially been installed on this Power Macintosh G3 Blue and White from 1998. I'm going to call it here for today, and I'm going to come back when I get some sleep, because I've been recording for 2.5 hours. This is how long it took to get this up and running. Recording for 2.5 hours. I'm going to get some sleep, and then after I wake up, I'm going to set up a graphical user interface on this thing, get a bunch of stuff installed, test out stuff like sound and graphics, see if we can get some OpenGL, some 3D acceleration up and running here. And yeah, but for now, let's power it off.
The next day.
All right, it is now the morning, and I'm back with this computer. So I have now successfully installed the Radeon firmware, which means that the boot speeds are much better than what we saw before. They're still not very good. It's still very, very slow, but it's not as bad as it was before with the 1-minute hang. It now takes about 2 seconds to initialize the graphics. So that's all good and well. Let's go ahead and log in here. You can see how long this takes compared to anything modern to actually get to the bash prompt. See, we are running an ATI Radeon 7000 graphics card with 800 megabytes of RAM and a 7400 G4 CPU, because this thing has been upgraded to a G4 like I mentioned. So what I want to do now is get a graphical user interface up and running. In order to do that, we first need to create a user account for ourselves. So let's do user add -m. No, first let's install sudo pacman-s sudo run user add -mg wheel distro hopper 39b pass wd distro hopper 39b. Got a new password there. Now let's go ahead and do editor equals nano vi sudo. There we go. Save that. Now we can go ahead and log out and log into our new standard user account. Now we should be able to get started with some installations. So in terms of the window manager we're going to be using, it's going to be icewm sudo pacman-s icewm xterm. We're going to install xorg xinit xf86 video all, I think is what we probably want. We also need Mesa Amber, which is a version of Mesa that supports old graphics cards. Now most distros don't have this compiled, but we do. Hopefully all those files exist. 60 megabytes downloaded. Alright, that's installed. Let's just say startx user bin icewm session. See if this works. No, it doesn't. We need to actually install X11, not just all of its dependencies. Yeah, that installs like libinfootput and all that other stuff. Now let's try again. Alright. That was easy. We have icewm and we have no fonts. No fonts at all. Oh no. Okay. Pacman-s noto fonts. This should install a font that will work. I've had this issue before with it only installing a monospace font, but no fonts is crazy. Let's try that again. Alright, now we actually have fonts. Nice. Alright, we have a terminal. Looks to be performing about how I expect. I want to see if we have graphical acceleration here. So let's go ahead and install PamCan. Mesa utils Mesa demos. I know we're not running on frame buffer, but we might not be running with acceleration either. I'm seeing scrolling lines on the screen. That's weird. I wonder if we're running at 75 Hertz. Nope. I don't know. Let's try GLX skiers. Haha! As you can see from the fact that we are synchronized to the vertical refresh rate, this is actually running accelerated. So that means that we are running graphically accelerated Linux. Let me remind you again, on this Power Macintosh G3 from 1998. 98. In my opinion anyways, I think that's really cool. You can see we're running 60 FPS. Let's try the Fire demo. Yeah. Let's try Fire here. It doesn't quite look right, and it's definitely running pretty slow, but you know, it is running on PowerPC in the year 2026. A 28-year-old computer running graphical accelerated Linux. Let's try out one other thing. Sound. Before we do that, we need to go ahead and copy over some sound files. And for that, we're going to go ahead and SFTP into my computer. Look at that beautiful 2.7 megabit speed. This is supposed to be, I believe, a 10100 Ethernet controller, but we are not running at 10100 speeds at all. Now we're going to need to go ahead and do sudo mod probe smd PowerMac. I realize we're also going to need a sound manager, so let's go ahead and install sudo pacman-s alsa utils. Because we're just going to be using straight up ALSA here, because Pulse Audio is too slow for this thing. Pipewire, no. So, ALSA it is. Now let's see, let's open a third Xterm. Wow, we're really multitasking on this thing. Oop. There we go. Let's start from the top. Got the volume set up all the way to 100%. Let's start from the top. No, the speaker sounds terrible. But it does work, and that's good to know. That is the Power Macintosh G3 running Arch Linux. If you want to check out ArchPOWER, please see the links in the description of this video. It's definitely the best distribution to use for these old Power Macs. I know I didn't really do it justice in this video because this computer is so old. In general, it is pretty easy to install because you can just use grub 2 instead of using Yaboot, which was where all of our issues really came from. Hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that it was entertaining and interesting. More stuff coming soon, hopefully, and thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the future.